Nowadays, the fact is, everybody can have a digital camera, basically. So I also believe that everybody can be a director. It just needs to have the vision, basically, and then sets up a team to make it happen.
Sure.
But thing is, like nowadays, once everybody can have a camera, uh, can make whatever kind of video and whatever, can make a movie, a film. You don't need anything else to make a film. You can make
Yeah.
a film just a guy with a camera, and it can be a cinema film,
Yeah.
right? A long feature. You just capture whatever, or just do a documentary.
Yeah.
So it's possible, and that eases somehow the mindset of some workflows and some requirements in terms of the way you approach the film, what you expect from the film. You know, like what the intention that you apply on the filmmaking, because there's a lot of methods and procedures and techniques that you don't need to know, because it's digital, so it's easy. You just go, you shoot. It's not good, yeah, I do it again. You know, so it gets more easygoing, basically, more accessible.
Yeah. Can you tell me about
So-
what did you mean by the intention, and can you expand on that a bit?
Yeah, it's that goes on there's a lot of we see a lot of images today, right? Everybody produces content.
Yeah.
Everybody can make beautiful images, right? It's digital. You can go on post. You can have
Yeah.
amazing cameras, and you can do like I will not discuss what is art or what is a film. You know, like in terms of concept.
You're not gonna get into that.
Yeah, it's like, but
Maybe best.
basically you can do like whatever you want, and you produce images, nice content, and in the end, I just sometimes I think you can do like people are doing things because it's cool, and they say I'm a filmmaker. It's like somebody just writes a poem and says like I'm a writer, you know, because I produce content
Writing.
and I write, you
Yeah.
know, but that doesn't mean necessarily that you know how to write, right?
Right.
And it doesn't mean that those filmmakers know how to make films. But actually, they produce visual stuff, nice images.
Yeah.
But then what I miss sometimes is I think that we lose in the way because of that lack of needs of commitment that back in the days
To
when
the
you had
craft, yeah.
procedures and
Right.
craft. You had to have something.
Right. The fact that it's so easy to create beautiful content now means that you need less rigor and less grit and less
And you don't need commitment. You
commitment
just do,
to
you know.
create something that
So
looks beautiful anyways.
Yeah, like, but for me it makes sense if you do something that
Yeah.
you really want to do.
Which is kind of
Which
happening generally, like across all practices. Like you could start a business tomorrow. You can get a website up. You can have a name. You can get a domain name. You
Yeah.
can. I mean, you could literally start a business tomorrow.
Yeah.
You can. Yeah. You can be you can go on YouTube and be a filmmaker tomorrow.
Sure.
Essentially.
You too. Yeah, exactly.
But it's kind of like the computer, right? The computer was promised, I think, at some point by some people that the computer would make life easier because we would have to work less.
Yeah.
But actually, it just made life. You just made things more efficient, and so now
Yeah,
we're
easier.
producing more, but
time
we
to
work
make things.
we
Yeah.
work just as long,
Yeah,
or if not longer.
You can have a lone wolves all the way. I consider myself a bit lone wolf, but not in a way of being able of producing everything by myself. But the thing is, I like in filmmaking specifically, it's like that lack of intention. You know, that lack of things that actually you look and they are good, like advertisement. It doesn't have to be film advertisement, film commercials. It can be like a huge wallpaper. It can be you know, like because it's everybody can, like anybody can produce the same. So
Yeah.
I just feel the lack of tap on it.
When
you know,
There's a deeper level almost that you're talking about, right? So that there's like the possibility of creation, and then there's like an underlying level of like what is this actually saying, and like does this, is this poignant, like is this
Yeah.
is this worth my attention in the time of
Yeah.
of Instagram that you see
Yeah.
thousands upon thousands of
Yeah.
pictures
Where-
every
because-
day.
Where do you think you got that where did you have that realization that I need to be a bit more intentional about, I guess, like Joao was saying about the why am I creating this, what's the reason behind doing this thing that looks cool, but what is it emotionally trying to communicate? Or
But for me, or from
yeah,
others?
from your perspective, where did that realization come from, or where did you learn that from, or how did you come about that?
I don't know. I feel like that it's your purpose. You know, like I've washed dishes already. You know, and
Yeah.
washing dishes is amazing because if you don't wash them, they don't complain. You know, so you just do it, and that's it. So if I'm doing this, it's because I want to do. I want to express something. I need to express something. So at the same time, I'm the once it's a need, if when the outcome is there, when I have something produced, at least for myself, like I have this fulfillment because I made it happen, you know, like as washing the dishes, you know, you made it happen, and it's done,
Yeah.
and it fulfills you because it's a step that you it's a step up, and so the outcome it comes pretty much from there, like from achieving a next step, like on the path that you want to take. So the background and the creative process, and that is obviously it goes with intention, because if you are into producing or creating something, it's because in the beginning you have the need of telling something, right? To express something.
So out of this
So-
need to communicate something that's going on, which maybe you don't know actually what it is, but there's a feeling at least, or
Yeah,
there
it's-
is an emotion associated with it,
Yeah,
and
it's like
to communicate that, you feel like there has to be more. There has to be more to what I'm doing to fulfill that or to meet that need.
yeah. See, like the intention, right? So
Yeah.
you are doing that because you want to see something. So every single thing, like every decision that you take on what you are creating, you are applying an intention to it.
Yeah.
On the frame, it can be just because it's beautiful. I don't judge that.
Yeah.
I can make a whole entire clip of nice pictures,
Yeah.
and just because it's cool, or just because I've seen this and,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful. Yeah,
It's
definitely.
It takes I think that takes a real criticality, because I think that essentially that's what design is about. Design is about, and I'm a facilitator, and I do a range of design work with a range of organizations. That for me, there was a like quite a clear discovery that people have a need, and you are creating something that meets that need. That's essentially what design is. There is not necessarily an aesthetic in design, but there has to be meeting a need.
Yeah.
And I think that didn't become very clear to me until, the last group of people that I worked with. And there were some people who were just really intentional and
Mhm.
really challenged and were critical about why things happened and how we did things, and the reason for our existence as an organization or as a group. And I don't ever remember. And those questions always came up. They came up every day. Well, why are we doing that? And well, how do we want to work together to accomplish that? And well, wait, why are you doing that? Does that align with what we're trying to accomplish? And that as a concept was never so clear to me until I got into the workplace and started to have to answer those questions. And how do young, like, where did you get that? Where did you get that, Joao? I certainly didn't get that in school, and I certainly didn't get it from my parents. And
I think it's the
it feels like
difficult
feels critical.
I think for me it's a lot to do with being able to verbalize it, because it's a strange and difficult concept to understand, and if you don't have a person who can verbalize it to you in a way that you really understand what it is, then you won't get it because you need to go through it. So I think it's
Sure.
most people will just like be beating their head against the wall until they get it, because you just like forcing like a what do you say, like a square peg into a round hole, right? But I think there's definitely a space there for creating a better way to communicate and creating a better way to verbalize it.
How would you say that
And I
to?
think, like,
How would you say that to a
conversations like
5-year-old?
this are actually a good way to do it, because we're reflecting and we're sort of like
Sure.
like trying to get a little bit of that. But and it's really interesting, because I've always felt that your work was and that's like something I've always looked up to your work, and like you've always been like a little bit like, okay, let me check what this guy's doing, you know. But
Nice.
I always felt that there was like this intention there, and I don't know whether it was on your I mean, it must have been conscious. Like for me, it just always felt conscious, you know. And I with my own work, I sometimes I have a bit of a hard time like getting into that space, getting into that mentality, getting into that round hole, you know. So like there's just I think that's got to do with it.
Yeah, it's like I believe like design, like totally, it's functionality, right? It's going after people needs and improve and making it better. And when it, like, I don't know if we can call art in some pieces of some design pieces, but like in terms of if we think on filmmaking as art, like cinema,
Mm-hmm.
and like we are spreading a message, right? We are spreading a point of view. We are like we are communicating, like there it's a need, it's a call. Do we need art, right? Do we need to see some kind of like certain pieces of art? Like I think it's depends on the author, depends on the artist, and in if we actually need that those points of view or those approaches. But like in comparing to design, is like it splits a bit in a way that
Sure.
art it gets in that universe, right? And but if we go on to commercials, or if we go to institutional filmmaking, if we go to promos, music videos,
It's
like
all the same concept,
yeah, but like for example,
the level of it- the level
commercials,
of-
it's different. The mindset is a bit different.
Yeah.
Like last year, I wasn't producing commercials, just 2017, and commercials for me is like I rather have. I'm looking when I get to a brief of a brand to make a TV commercial or something, or even if it's a web or just a promo, like what I want to somehow, what I look for, it's the honest approach and the purest way to communicate the essence of that brand
Yeah.
from that brief. Like it can be, the approach can be really straight to the point on the brief and be something really sharp, really clear and straight to the point in terms of storytelling, or you can just add some details on it.
Yeah.
Like in cinematography, you can be something really classic, or can be something more emotional, with a tone that goes more to the feelings of the brand, or more to the message, or more to the story.
Do you have an example of that where
So-
because that sounds like intentionality more so, like
Yeah.
I've got a brand that I'm trying to communicate and we're trying to market and we're trying to connect emotionally to whoever's going to buy this thing potentially or consume this thing,
Yeah.
and there has to be real intentionality around the lighting and the colors and the person there and how
Yeah.
they're engaging with the product or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have an
Like-
example of that?
Yeah, like some procedure, when the procedures that usually come up is like the briefing comes from the agency that builds up the campaign, like the creatives and the copywriters like establish this idea, and the brief can come like more strict or more open, right?
Sure.
And even even if it comes strict, you can always propose on a treatment, like a different approach that goes a bit off, and sometimes it's good, right? Because naturally the copywriters or the strategists might not thought about that possibility.
Sure.
You know, like
Sure.
so like.
So you should challenge the brief a bit.
Yeah, so I believe that some brand that input comes pretty much from the agencies and from the creatives, like, and there are brands that have more they have a wider range of possibilities to explore and to reinvent themselves, you know, because there are brands that are classic, like I would say something related with medicals, for example, with medicine. They are pretty strict somehow, like
Sure.
usually very light, very clean.
Sure.
Like cameras, probably it's on a tripod or on some stabilizer.
Right. So quite steady, no movement.
Yeah, so yeah, like
a lot of light blues, light greens,
exactly,
white, clear.
all this background, and there are some they are established approaches somehow. But then it comes also with trends. Like there are brands that now they want everything in studio. Now they want everything handheld, defocus, like cool things, skate things, surf things, you know, like, and it goes pretty much by the trend. And then I believe that some directors fit more in some trends, or they reinvent themselves, or they just they look for specific directors for each approach. And
what's your mindset when briefs come to you then, or when pieces of work come to you? How do you feel about your style and what you want to deliver as an artist, but also balancing that with, okay, this is a paying client, and
like,
what's your approach to that?
I can say that I split much my artist point of view and my director approach with commercials, because if a commercial comes up, I pretty much get into trying to understand exactly the needs of that brand, like thinking as if I was the brand, and what I would suggest to be the better option from that brief, obviously. When I'm an artist, it's like being a director or doing just experimental. I'll really experiment. Right?
Sure.
I'll
It's
just
more
go on
exploratory.
and then just let it flow.